same thing. I want to step back to representation for a second, because for me, finding a Black therapist was very good, but I also do the same thing for like healthcare. I try and find, if I can, I try and find a Black like healthcare professional, because I feel like that representation in those moments are important for me, because just historically I've had instances where I'll be explaining a pain or something that I'm having, and it's just like, oh, it's okay, you'll be fine, you do, and I'm just like, no, I'm telling you I'm not okay, you're not listening to me. And then once you read all these studies about that's actually very high and common in Black, especially women, at that moment it was just that it just made me lose trust in our healthcare system. And it just made me value more of representation in those areas, but it also redefined what representation means to me.
Right.
And unfortunately, I had to learn that at a very young age, but
at least you learned it at a very young age. Some of us, it took us a while because we were just not, I had a family, we didn't go to the doctor on the regular. You know, I went to the doctor on the regular once I went to college. So I was like, oh, this is a thing, I can do this? You know, it's not this, you know, dire emergency only, but I think part of it is to what you just said, is that you have people, oh, you know, you'll be fine, that's nothing. And so we downplay our issues. And so you're right. And I feel like I'm now getting to that point of going, I didn't used to necessarily care about having a Black physician. Therapist, yes, but physician, not so much. But I'm finding now, actually in the past couple of days, I'm like, I might need to change mine. Not that he's bad, but you know, like I said, I'm about to hit 47, and I'm like, you know what? They've, you know, recently started talking about how, you know, colon cancer, you know, in African Americans, they said start getting tested at 45. So I'm like, all right, I'm 2 years out, you know, away, you know, out of that. So let me go do that. And the doctor kind of pushed back. And I felt like I had to stop and explain, and he still wants to have a conversation. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, yeah, I'm starting to understand that piece of it more. But you're right, representation does matter. And I think what's crucial to remember about representation, you know, I was sitting in on a endorsement interview a couple of weeks ago, and there's a Latino gentleman that was part of it, and we were talking, and he was saying how in all of his time working as part of a union at the place that he works, recently was only the first time he had ever had another Latino boss or supervisor. And he took an issue to them. The supervisor didn't agree with him, so it didn't go anywhere. But he said it's not about, so representation isn't about having someone that looks like you there because they're going to think like you and that you're always going to agree. It was just the fact that there was someone else that was there. And I think that that's the myth that we have to, unfortunately, we're going to have the responsibility of teaching people and educating them on, and saying representation doesn't mean we're going to have all these like-minded people that look like us in the same room. No. Because you can still have someone that looks like you that's going to think differently, that's going to have a different perspective, that's going to give you an answer you don't like.
Yeah. You actually, I don't know if it was in one of the Black in Edmonds conversations or if it was in your Step Up conversation, but you actually said, like, you're a single like person, no children, so like your point of view is not going to be the same as someone who's like married with kids.
Yeah.
Because that's not your representation. Like it's not your same point of view. And I think that in that moment, that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people miss. And I myself, like I just said, I had to redefine what that meant to me. And that's one of those examples. And I learned pretty much, I wouldn't say the hard way, but I've had a lot of conversations with friends lately around a lot of things, but I also noticed that it can very much depend on like the upbringing.
Yeah.
as well. And that kind of changes like how you approach a lot of things in life. And I'll just say that I think that it's very important to not just have people like in your professional world of different mindsets and different views, but in your personal world too, because that's how you have some real true personal growth. And I have had to have a lot of that over the past, I'll say 4 years, because I'm in a state where like a lot of my friends or the people that I build around me have become like my family, because none of my family is out here. And I had to start reevaluating the type of views and things that I was bringing around me, because it was changing how I was behaving in the world. And again, I think that goes back to just realizing what true representation means to you, but then also defining like how you want to be in the world, like the type of person that you want to be. And one of my favorite quotes is like, you're a product of the people you place around you. That is the exact reason why I don't want a lot of people who think like me, because then I'm not going to be challenged to actually grow beyond that. But
there's a conversation that I want to start, and I don't know how to do it, but it'll come up soon. But I want people to start thinking about I want to ask the question, what does diversity mean when you hear it? And I feel like, especially in campaign season, and everyone's dropping the D word. And I'm like, diversity is not just about race, it's not just about gender, it's diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, all these different things. And it's like the most successful board of directors, and I always go to business because that's just kind of what I came out of, even though I wanted to be a broadcaster. So I don't know how I got into white collar. But the most successful boards, the most successful teams are ones where it's different people bringing different things to the table. If you just have the same people with the same thought of mind, nothing grows, nothing gets better, you get stuck. And so when I hear people use diversity, I'm like, I'm challenging them to think about diversity beyond skin color and, age, even to some degree. It's like diversity is diversity. And even in the midst of the Black community, when I did the first Black in Edmonds, which I thought, was going to be the only one, but I was very specific. I picked who I picked because I knew we were all different. And my whole goal was that if anyone watched or if anyone listened, that the one thing they would walk away with is, hey, they didn't all agree. Because there's this sense that we all share a same brain, that we all think the same way, that we all have the same experience, that we all want the same things. And it's like, no. So I had me as the single, no kids, always lived on her own thing with no immediate family around her. Like I'm the young long gun. And then you had Darnisha as the wife and mother with the 2 kids who have gone through a whole bunch of crap. Then you had the older Black gentleman, Donnie Griffin, was there. And, and he's sharing his experiences. And then we had the other gentleman, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, right? Tracy, who, is more suburbia and is married into a mixed family. And so everyone's perception around things was different. Even though we're foundationally on the same level with, culture and kind of being Black people in America. But then we all grew up differently. We all have different life situations. And you can't know what every person's going through or what their opinion is, especially if you haven't gone through it yourself.
Yeah, similarities is one thing, but that doesn't mean that everything is going to be the same. So
exactly, and there's not, and I think the second part of that is that there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
my Black experience are different from your Black experience, are different from somebody else's Black experiences, but that doesn't discount those experiences one way or the other because I didn't have them. I have never been personally pulled over by the police.
No, never. Me either. Oh no, I have. Here in Edmonds was my first time ever.
Never. Whether I was in Detroit, whether I was in the Bay Area or here, I've never been pulled over. But when I hear everyone else's stories of it, Especially if they live in the same area I do, I don't go, well, it didn't happen to me, so that can't be the problem. You must have done something. It's like, no. I don't have to have had that same experience to validate what yours is. Just like there are going to be people that have not had my experiences, and I'm not going to look for them to validate it. That was another lesson I had to teach myself. That I don't need someone to validate what my experience is, or to say, you know, we approve, like we agree with what you're saying for it to have happened.
But to make it a little fun and light really quickly, what are some things that's bringing you some joy right now? Other than Amazon shopping.
What is bringing me joy? I would say, honestly, what I wasn't expecting to bring me joy, but has, is really just everything that has to do with my Alicia In Edmonds page. I did that as, initially I set that up as, it was a survival mechanism because I was quarantining at home alone. And I'll say the motivation behind all of that too is that, when my brother passed away in 2009, my oldest brother, he lived alone. And so they didn't find him for 3 days. And that has always stuck in my mind. So I'm just like, I don't want that to happen to me. I need somebody to know if they don't hear from me, to come check on me. And so with quarantine and everyone just sheltering in place at home, and I had nowhere to go and to check into, I created this page just to say, hey, I'm alive, and I just need somebody to know that I'm here. And so then other people started to participate. And this was even before Black in Edmonds. Just doing things and reporting what was happening in the community around, rallying around the retailers and the restaurants at that time. And that brought joy to me because I was like, wait, there are people out there too that want to do things too. And that we're not so far apart in this community that maybe we thought we were before. And kind of see the growth of that and people, wanting to connect and meet each other once all this was done. And now kind of seeing some of that happen now because the community's opening up again. That has brought me joy because I feel like I've met so many new people. I feel like I have genuine relationships with them, even if we haven't physically been in the same room yet. I feel less lonely and more connected to here than I did when I was running around doing things around Edmonds all day. And then everything that's kind of come from that. So going out to the restaurants and seeing the restaurateurs and being recognized both ways and feeling like I'm going to go see a friend that owns a restaurant, not a restaurant where I kind of know the owner. And, and going out to the waterfront, finding places to get fresh air, finding new places in and around town that I didn't know about before because too busy being a busybody before COVID. So I would say that in partnership with making sure that I do something to treat myself once a week, whether it's a pedicure, whether it's a treat from the store, if I buy myself a little bauble, I do those things as part of, of joy and self-love. It's that I am worthy and appreciative of these things. And as long as I'm able to do them, I will do them.
I just want to acknowledge that I also have that same fear of, I live alone. So if something was to happen to me, what in the world, how will anyone know? And I'll say that one of the things that has actually helped me through this quarantine is, so there's a board member who, her and I, before COVID, before the quarantine, we would see each other in passing, and she would always talk about knitting and doing yarn stuff, and then we would say we should do things, and then we started doing these FaceTime conversations when the quarantine started. And then before you knew it, we were taking socially distanced walks, and she was introducing me all these places. She's 40 years old and has a 5-year-old, and her 5-year-old would every time I would see her, she would her and I, we did a coloring session via FaceTime, and every time I would go to drop something off, there'd be a new thing that she would draw for me. And I actually have come to actually enjoy those moments that I never thought that would happen. And it's so funny because we actually became friends in the quarantine.
Exactly.
Where we used to see each other way more, like, often inside of the building. And it happened backwards. And believe it or not, I had a really bad allergic reaction recently, and she actually took me to the hospital because like she had texted me something, and I think it was something funny, and then I just so happened to respond and be like, "Are you busy right now?" Like, I'm having a reaction.
Need you here.
She came and got me and took me to the emergency room, and I was like, that is interesting. Like, I have built so many actual friendships during this quarantine.
Exactly.
I had no idea that would have happened. I went from feeling very isolated and alone to having a whole network of people that I can reach out to when I want to just have some nice conversations, when I want to go on a walk, when we want to go to a farmer's market, anything. And that caught me by surprise. I've been enjoying that. I've also become a plant mom, and I have officially been able to keep orchids alive, but that's the only thing I've been able to keep alive.
That's hard to keep alive, so that's something.
I'm very proud of the fact that I have been able to keep them alive. I have three. I have three that are doing well. Go ahead and tell me who your top 5 artists of all time are.
Okay, so my top 5 artists, it was hard to narrow down, but I got a couple of ideas from looking behind me, because obviously I love going to ECA concerts. So Janet Jackson is at the top of that list. And that's really because I feel like I grew up alongside with her, kind of mentally, emotionally through her music. We were almost the same age. New Edition. I will stop, listen, and do anything. Ronnie and Bobby, Ricky and Mike, Ralph and Johnny too. India Ari, I have seen her in concert 4 times now. 3 were when I was still in the Bay Area, and once when she was here, and I got to be a co-sponsor of the event, so that was fun. Phil Collins. I love his music. I love that he's a musician and that he sings. And I'll tell you, trivia is that anytime I'm flying back home from somewhere, I will listen on my phone or whatever to Take Me Home by him. That's my entry coming home music. So I love Phil Collins. And then finally, out of that 5, I would say the late, great George Michael. He was a very talented artist, and he could change his genre, in between things, and I was still there for it. So I would say those are my top 5, top of mind, but definitely India's my girl.
I love her. So I'm gonna name a color. And you can just tell me the first song that comes to mind, or art.
Okay.
So my favorite color is purple.
My favorite color. So of course I'm thinking Prince.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Prince. Purple Rain. The whole soundtrack is one you listen from beginning to end, no skipping. Is it?
Yellow.
Oh God, like Yellow Submarine.
I just feel like,
hey, you call me Mellow Yellow.
I feel like, honestly, I think that's the only thing that I know.
See?
Yellow.
Oh, there's the tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. Yeah, that is a song though.
Pink.
Well, I think of the artist Pink.
Me too.
And I love her, and we have the same name. She's an Alicia too. Actually, we technically kind of have the same name. So Crank is my mother's maiden name. But my dad's last name is Moore. And that's actually what Pink's real name, her government name is Alicia Moore.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, you have my info, so let's connect soon.
I will do that. I'm excited.
Yay.
And I can't wait to actually have a conversation with you in person. So
yes, we'll do that soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks, Kendall.